Now, coming straight now to transport, indeed, like I mentioned, we are guided by the Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan. We termed it, or what we call moving SADC to 2027. The Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan, like I mentioned, it was developed and approved in August 2012 by the SADC heads of state and government, and it's a vision up to 2027. So it has different chapters. One of them is transport. And what we are looking for in the area of transport in terms of infrastructure development, we're looking at infrastructure that will talk to integrity, that will talk to sustainability, that will talk to safety and security, and choice. You need to have a choice. If you are a Botswana and you want to take your exports out, you need to have a choice, whether you are going through Trans-Kalahari Corridor, or you are looking at Ponta Techabanin in Mozambique, or you want to look further to Angola through Lobito. What is it that you need to put in place in terms of infrastructure and many other options? So you need to have that choice. And it has to be seamlessness. What we see today is that when you are pulling your trains from one country, when you get to the border, your drivers come out. Then the other ones come in. Why can't we run these trains all the way to where they are supposed to go? Why do we have to change the locomotives and so on and so forth? So this is what we are talking about, seamlessness. Seamlessness in terms of air transport. Now, when you come to Tanzania, you have to go through Ethiopia. You have to go through all over the world to come here. So these are the things we're talking about, capacity and connectivity. And of course, all these are underpinned by very strong policy, institutional and regulatory harmonization, and creation of enabling environment through legislation and capacity building. That's what we are doing in the area of transport. And I won't say much about this. I've already mentioned that in terms of development in the region, we have approved or adopted a corridor approach. I will share with you my briefing so that you can understand and appreciate these corridors. For those who are the locals here, you are aware of Mtwara Corridor in the Eastern Cluster corridors. You have your Mtwara Corridor, you have your Dar es Salaam Corridor, and many others. Your Walvis Bay and Dola Lubumbashi Corridor. For some of you who are coming from, I don't know whether they are all locals here, moderator, but for those who are in Botswana, you have your Trans-Kalahari Corridor and others. So this is a framework or a network that we have together as member states developed and approved. And whatever developments we are carrying out, being it on roads, being it on ICT, being it on whatever it is, it's based on this framework, a corridor approach. And this is where member states come together. In coming together, they enter into governance instruments. So for any corridor, for instance, Mtwara Corridor or Dar es Salaam corridors, the member states who are in this corridor, they come together to sign a constitution or a memorandum of agreement or a charter or whatever it is, just to say we want to collaborate together. And then they will continue and say, we want to put structures in place. Your Dar es Salaam corridor, it has a secretariat based here in Dar es Salaam. So they will put a structure. Then they will also come up with an action plan to say, what is it that we want to look at? So they will say, okay, we want to improve whatever road it is, or the ports here, the Dar es Salaam port here, but it's all of them collectively saying these are our priority infrastructure projects in this particular corridor. And of course, they will contribute to make sure that the secretariat is sustainable. So that is the modus operandi in as far as corridors are concerned. So we do have quite a number of these corridors with secretariats in place, okay? Now, we are also looking at soft infrastructure in the area of transport. You might be aware of a program which is under implementation that is called a tripartite transport and transit facilitation. Tripartite meaning the three RECs, SADC, the East African Community, and the Common Market for East and Southern Africa. So we've come together as the three RECs to form what you call a tripartite. So this program now supports all member states in the tripartite, 22 member states for that matter. In SADC we are 16, and now we bring in these other ones. So this is how we are doing, and we are looking at issues that have to talk to vehicle load management, vehicle dimension and equipment and standards. You go out and you look at international traffic, you look at the standards and the quality of vehicles, buses, trucks, what have you. And this is a platform where we come together and say, what cross-border road transport rules and regulations do we come up with to make sure that we do have quality operations across our corridors? Abnormal loads. We see a lot of things, some of them very scary for abnormal loads. So we have to come up with regulations and standards in that regard. Dangerous goods, the tankers, we are coming up with regulations and standards. And very soon, I think in October, the tripartite sectoral committee of ministers of infrastructure will be looking at these model legislative provisions and some agreements for endorsement, which will later be considered by the summit of the tripartite for implementation in the tripartite region. So this is what we have been able to do in the area of transport. Railways program, yes, there isn't much, as you may be aware. We are very much biased towards road transport. Even the very same cargo that has to be transported by rail is transported by road transport. So we have developed a program which we call Railway Revitalization Program to ensure efficiency and sustainability. We are working with our regional organization, we call it Southern African Railway Association, which is based in Harare, Zimbabwe, to drive the railway agenda in the region. In aviation, of course, the main one is the open skies policy. Can we relax and make sure that we are all liberalized and we don't have to, coming to Africa, you don't have to go through Europe. Coming to Dar es Salaam, you don't have to connect like 3 times. Is it possible to do that? And it talks to regulations, it talks to operations. Can we pull together in terms of fuel? Can we pull together in terms of maintenance? Can we not look at Air Tanzania as Air Tanzania, but as a regional service? How do we then collaborate? So the programs under aviation and air transport program are looking at issues such as implementation of the famous Yamoussoukro decision, the open skies policy. Of course, the issues of safety. We now have a regional safety aviation oversight organization, which is hosted by the Kingdom of Eswatini in Mbabane. So we have that organization there, which is attempting to have a pool of inspectors to look at your issues that have to do with air worthiness. I was about to say road worthiness, air worthiness, and certification of these flying equipments and so on and so forth. So it is based in the Kingdom of Eswatini. If I may quickly go to ICT. ICT is also based on a number of pillars, and these pillars, and we dubbed our vision for ICT as Digital SADC 2027. This is what you will get from the Infrastructure Master Plan. We're looking at a number of issues. The pillars include infrastructure, capacity building and content, e-service and applications, research, innovation, and industry development. And of course, underpinning all this is confidence and security of networks and services, policy and regulatory harmonization. We have made a lot of strides. I've shared in my presentation statistics in terms of mobile penetration, in terms of internet user penetration. You will see how we are faring as a region. We're not doing so good, but I will share my presentation with you. Now, the programs that we have been implementing or under implementation look at issues such as SADC National Regional Internet Exchange Points, Why do we have to look west to America? Why do we have to look wherever to Europe? Why can't we have our own regional internet exchange points? Then the issue of satellite, SADC shared satellite system, the issues of SADC digital terrestrial television. I have also provided information in terms of how far are we in terms of migration to this DTT. Issue of SADC roaming project. I hear in East Africa you are doing so well, but in Southern Africa we are still grappling with our roaming project, which is in 3 phases. We have been able to implement 1 and 2, but now the 3rd phase is still under consideration, and consultants are hard at work. But I have shared the details in terms of where we are at. The issue of SADC ICT Center of Excellences and model laws and strategies on cybersecurity, which is a concern for everybody, a cross-cutting issue which is very critical. I have shared with you in terms of where we are at. Now, coming to postal services. All of us, we are saying with the introduction of internet and what have you, post office is gone. No, it's not. It's not true. So the issues of e-commerce, how do you sell your cassava sitting somewhere in Bagamoyo, some small village there? How then do you use your post office to be able to sell your products? This is what we are doing, or we are implementing under postal strategies and policies. So we have gone a long way.